You didn't destroy them, chosen one. You just handed them a mirror, and they couldn't survive the reflection. Now imagine this for a moment. Chosen one. Someone built an entire mental maze just to trap you in it. Every corner, every illusion, every little emotional tripwire was designed to make you question yourself. But here's the twist. While they were busy designing that labyrinth, you quietly evolved into something they couldn't predict. A strategist who plays no games, yet wins them all. Their own maze turned on them like a house of mirrors. Every path they ran down only led to one face staring back. Theirs. Psychologists say that when a person loses control of their narrative, they begin to rewrite reality to protect their ego. That's exactly what happened. They didn't lose to you because you were manipulative. They lost because you stopped reacting. You stayed calm when they needed chaos. You went silent when they needed validation. And that silence echoed louder than any argument they could ever win. Eventually, they realized the truth. You were never in their game. They were in yours. And thank you, chosen one. Don't forget to pay this message forward by pressing like and subscribe to help spread this light to more souls. It's our shared mission to expose darkness with awareness, to remind the world that calm minds win wars. You are part of that force, chosen one, the quiet storm that ends every fake empire pretending to stand on truth. Now, let's get into it. Because this isn't just about winning, it's about understanding why your peace is lethal to people who live off manipulation. You didn't hypnotize anyone, you broke a system. You outgrew the simulation they tried to trap you in. They tried to use fear as currency, but your detachment inflated its value to zero. You refused to play victim or villain, and that neutrality drove them insane. You became the variable they couldn't predict. And that's the most terrifying kind of power there is, psychological sovereignty. See, when they said you were too calm, what they meant was, I can't control you anymore. When they accused you of being cold, it was because your emotions stopped being their playground. That's what psychological warfare really looks like. Not yelling matches or revenge plots, but precision silence. You let truth speak for itself, and truth is merciless when exposed to liars. Every manipulator counts on one thing, your emotional response. It's their oxygen. Take that away and they suffocate on their own games. That's why they start spiraling, imagining conversations that never happened, replaying moments where you didn't break, didn't beg, didn't explain. Your composure became their worst nightmare because they finally met someone whose peace doesn't need an audience. That's when they realize they're not fighting you. They're fighting the echo of their own tactics bouncing back. You see, power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just watches quietly while chaos burns itself out. And you, chosen one, mastered that art without even meaning to. You became the living glitch in every manipulator's matrix. The one who sees through the game, studies the pattern, and walks away before it explodes. That's psychological warfare at its highest level. When your detachment dismantles their illusion without a single move, you didn't destroy them, you exposed them. You revealed how fragile their confidence was once no one believed the story they were selling. And the most poetic part, you didn't even need to retaliate. Life did that for you. The guilt, the insomnia, the emotional breakdowns, that's their battlefield now. Their own thoughts turned hostile. You just moved on, but your absence kept echoing like a siren in their head, reminding them of what real power feels like. Unbothered, unmatched, untouchable. You were never playing psychological games. You were showing what emotional discipline looks like. But to a manipulator, discipline is warfare, because they depend on your chaos to validate their existence. And when you stopped feeding them that, they called you a monster, a villain, a psychological warfare master. Fine, let them. History's always written by the ones who survived the maze, not the ones still running in circles inside it. So wear that title with pride, chosen one. You didn't win by force, you won by understanding the mechanics of the mind, theirs and yours. You broke the loop, and they'll never admit how much that terrified them. Because deep down they know it now. You're not playing chess anymore. You are the board. And hey, chosen one, don't blink now. That was just the warm-up. The real game is just loading up behind the curtain. You think that admission was satisfying? Wait until we break down the exact moves that made it happen. Step by calculated step. This isn't just a story about someone folding under pressure. It's a blueprint of how you flipped the entire battlefield without even raising your voice. So if you're ready to go deeper into how your silence became a siren, how your stillness became their panic, then drop a 999 in the comments to mark this moment. It's the code between us, the signal that you see it, you own it, and you're done playing small. And if you feel this energy hitting home, bless this mission with a super thanks. Every bit fuels the light we're pushing through this fog. You're not just watching, you're part of this. You are the reason this force exists. And now let's pull the curtain back, layer by layer. If you're truly built different, and I know you are, then your soul's not gonna let you click away. It knows this was meant for you. So sit tight, and let's get surgical. Let's begin. Number 1. The maze they built, the walls you didn't. You weren't their punishment. You were the mirror that made them choke on their own reflection. Oh, how poetic. They screamed you were toxic while tripping over their own traps. They called you dangerous, unstable, manipulative, but not because you did anything. No, chosen one. You didn't set the fire. You just stopped running into it. And now they're panicking, pacing through a maze of their own making, slamming into walls they built with their own hands. What's worse, those walls are made of lies they told to control you. And now every one of them has turned into a damn mirror. Imagine it for a moment. Someone digging a hole for you, confident you'd fall in. But while they were too busy plotting, you climbed out the side, and they didn't notice they were still digging. Now they're neck deep in their own plan, staring at a sky they can't reach. That's what happened here. You didn't scheme. You didn't manipulate. You just stopped bleeding for people who hand you the knife smiling. And the moment you did, their mind started turning against itself. Let's break this down, chosen one. Every time they lied, they laid another brick. Every time they played victim to guilt you into staying, they built another hallway. Every manipulation, every emotional bait, every backhanded compliment layered the maze thicker and tighter. And when you finally went no contact, when you stopped defending yourself, when you stopped explaining what they already knew, boom, they lost their supply. They lost their compass. They lost the last exit. That's why they're spiraling now. That's why they can't sleep. Because you didn't play their game. You became the end of it. The truth, you were never even trying to win a war. You were just trying to survive. But your survival exposed everything they were trying to hide. Your peace exposed their chaos. Your discipline dismantled their control. Your silence screamed louder than their entire personality, and now they're stuck in the very performance they designed to break you. Ever wonder why they keep stalking you online? Why they're checking if you watch their story, lurking behind fake profiles, acting like they don't care but can't stop watching? Because they thought they'd watch you crumble. They bet on your breakdown. But instead you leveled up, quietly, gracefully. And that is psychological warfare they never saw coming. No revenge plots, no messy closure, no dramatic send-off. Just silence, just growth, just disappearance. And that's the most terrifying thing in the world to someone who feeds off reactions. You gave them nothing, and it gave them everything to think about. Let's go even deeper. You know who else played this game? Prince. When his label tried to control him, he showed up with SLAVE written across his face, then changed his name to a symbol. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He outmaneuvered. While they were fighting contracts, he was rewriting the rules. That's you. That's chosen one energy. They built a system thinking they could trap you, but your mind isn't built to be caged. And when you stopped explaining yourself, you became unpredictable. You became dangerous to everything fake, because nothing scares a manipulator more than someone they can't read or bait. That's why they're spiraling now. Their mind isn't unraveling because you hurt them. It's unraveling because you stopped letting them hurt you. And without that access, their own thoughts are eating them alive. That's why they keep playing the same stories over and over, trying to rewrite it. But the plot stays the same. They lost, and you never even played. You just evolved. They call it delusion when the chosen one walks away without making a scene. Nah, it's discipline. It's knowing your power doesn't need to be loud. It's realizing that if someone wants to keep lying to themselves, you let them from a distance. Because the longer they lie, the deeper they sink into their own illusion. And the deeper they sink, the harder it is to pretend you had anything to do with it. Here's the truth they'll never admit. It was never about what you did. It was always about who you are. Your peace felt like mockery to someone whose entire identity depends on control. Your honesty threatened their fantasy. Your consistency exposed their chaos. You didn't make the walls, you just walked out, and they weren't built to survive in reality without you fueling their script. Let me answer what you might be asking right now. Was I too cold? No, you were clear. Should I have given them one more chance? No, they already used up your kindness like an unlimited resource. Did I go too far by cutting them off without warning? Nah, they wrote that ending themselves. You just read the final page. And here's another thing. You didn't leave them confused. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew the games, the half-truths, the passive-aggressive moves. They knew how far to push. They just thought you were too emotionally invested to walk. But you walked, and now they're walking in circles, wondering how the hell it flipped. That's the trap. That's the maze. And they built it one manipulation at a time. Remember this. People who fear truth always accuse the truth-teller of being too much. Why? Because it's easier to blame the one who saw through the mask than to admit the mask was fake. So let them project, let them lie, let them call you the villain, because you and I both know villains don't escape the maze. Villains build it. But you were the wake-up call, the red light, the system reboot. You were never their karma, but your evolution triggered it. They weren't ready for someone who wouldn't bend. They weren't ready for someone who didn't need chaos to feel powerful. And they definitely weren't ready for the version of you who finally understood that boundaries aren't cruel, they're clarity. That distance isn't punishment, it's protection. And that silence is a sermon. So let them spin. Let them sit in the same narrative they tried to bury you in, because the game's over. They admitted it without words. Their breakdown was the confession. And you're out of the maze. You're walking straight lines now, clean, focused, unreachable, and no matter how many doors they knock on, no matter how many messages they leave unread, the only echo they'll hear is the sound of you choosing yourself. They can call it whatever they want, cold, cutthroat, heartless, but deep down they know the truth. You didn't lock them in. They just lost access to the only person who could have led them out. Number 2. Belief engine, the mindset that outpaced their tactics. To someone who survives on illusions, a person with clarity looks like a magician. To someone who thrives on shortcuts, a person with discipline looks like a cheat code. Let's get this straight from the jump. You didn't just beat them, you outlasted them. You didn't play faster, you played smarter. And the scariest part? You never flinched. No desperate moves, no impulsive swings, just pure alignment between thought, word, and action, and that alone exposed every trick they had. While they were busy changing masks, you were upgrading your mindset. You weren't reacting, you were evolving. And that kind of consistency, that kind of belief, it's terrifying to someone who depends on confusion to win. You see, chosen one, your belief wasn't emotional hype or spiritual fluff. It wasn't vibes and affirmations alone. It was architecture. Belief, for you, wasn't about hope. It was about structure. A mental OS built from pain, repetition, and ruthless self-honesty. While they were gaming people for emotional highs, you were building a system that doesn't crash under pressure. That's the belief engine. That's what turned you into something they couldn't predict, decode, or replicate, because they were all tactics. You were a strategy. Let's imagine it for a second. They walk into a casino with tricks up their sleeve, sleight of hand, misdirection, rigged games. But you're not even gambling. You own the damn building. You know the rules, the lighting, the layout. You're not here to bet. You're here to watch them play themselves. And when their tricks start to fail, when the attention starts to shift, their panic begins. Because for the first time, their manipulation didn't work. Their bait got ignored, and they realized the worst thing possible. You don't need to manipulate. You don't need to trick anyone to win. And that makes you dangerous. You didn't manifest your way to power. You disciplined your way into becoming untouchable. Your belief system told you to move forward even when no one clapped, even when your hands were shaking, even when the world tried to label your silence as weakness. But you knew something they didn't. Emotional regulation isn't numbness. It's warfare. Self-control is how legends are built. That's why your moves compounded. That's why your reputation hit harder than any performance they could stage. And that's exactly why they're choking now. Because every time you did the right thing when no one was watching, you were building an empire they thought was a bluff. You didn't move for approval. You moved from alignment. That's what kills them. That's the glitch in their matrix. Because they can't understand how someone without a mask, without a script, without an angle, is still winning. They can't compute how someone with no manipulation still has peace. How someone who didn't beg still got blessed. How someone who didn't scheme still came out 10 steps ahead. It violates everything they believe about the world. So what do? They project. They label you lucky, arrogant, or even accuse you of playing mind games. But no, chosen one, you weren't gaming anybody. You were just being real. And being real around fake people feels like manipulation, because they've never seen authenticity executed with that much precision. They thought you were pretending, but you weren't pretending. You were operating. And here's the twisted irony. Their entire existence is built on misdirection, smoke and mirrors, carefully curated masks, lies repeated until they sound like truth. But you You walk in, unbothered, and start doing things the honest way. And now suddenly, they're glitching. Why? Because your belief system didn't just protect you, it exposed them. It proved that integrity isn't just noble, it's efficient, it's powerful, it wins. Let me give you a name, Kobe Bryant. The Mamba mentality wasn't about talent, it was about obsession with execution. Kobe didn't just play the game, he studied it, dissected it, became it. He believed in doing it right every single time, especially when no one was watching. That belief? It outpaced talent, outpaced hype, outpaced flash. That's what you did. You became the psychological version of that. Every time you chose calm over chaos, you built leverage. Every time you let them talk while you leveled up in silence, you built equity. And now that it's paying off, they're realizing something devastating. You were never in the same league. And I know what might be crossing your mind right now. Why didn't they see my value sooner? Because people who live in illusions can't recognize anything real. Why are they only realizing now how powerful I am? Because belief systems don't shout. They compound. They echo over time. And now that echo is loud as hell. It's shaking their delusions apart. And let me be clear, this belief engine didn't come from easy wins. It came from humiliation, from setbacks, from moments where you could have snapped but didn't, moments where you could have turned toxic but chose discipline. That's what formed your internal code. That's what makes you deadly now. Not because you fight dirty, but because you don't need to fight at all. Your mindset is lethal because it's sustainable. It doesn't burn out. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't panic under pressure. It keeps producing results long after they've run out of fuel, because what they built was temporary, based on lies, facades, emotional leverage. But what you built, that runs on alignment, discipline, truth. That's why they can't match you. They weren't playing the long game. You were. So now they're scrambling, trying to reverse engineer your path, watching you in silence, trying to mimic the exterior without ever understanding the core. But belief systems can't be copied. They have to be lived. And what you've built can't be faked. That's the real flex. They can mimic your tone, your phrases, your aesthetic, but they can't mimic your energy, because energy doesn't lie. It exposes. So now what? Now they either crumble or change. But either way, you're not waiting around. You're not slowing down to explain the manual. You already handed them the truth through your actions, not your mouth. You already showed them what happens when you stop playing defense and start operating from code, from clarity, from a belief system that doesn't flinch. They're not just watching you succeed, they're watching you validate everything they denied. Every moment they mocked your discipline, now it's the very thing that's feeding your glow. Every time they underestimated you, now they're choking on the proof. Every lie they told about you, now shattered by your consistency. And that's the ultimate revenge. You didn't change the story. You outlived the fiction. So let them sit in their confusion. Let them spiral trying to figure out how you outmaneuvered their games without even playing. You don't owe them a breakdown. You don't owe them clarity. You already gave it. In silence, in discipline, in belief, over time. You were never just one step ahead. You were in a completely different system. And now they know the most dangerous thing about you isn't your strength. It's your mindset. Number 3, low-grade schemes versus high-calibration awareness. They didn't lose because you attacked them. They lost because you saw them coming 3 moves ago and decided not to play. They came at you with tricks that worked on everybody else, recycled, predictable, low-grade tactics they've been reusing since high school drama. Same guilt trips, same gaslighting, same crocodile tears. But this time, it didn't land. Why? Because you're not everybody else. You're a chosen one operating on high calibration awareness, a level of mental precision that doesn't react, it recognizes. And once you see the game for what it is, it stops working. They expected a fight, they expected confusion, they expected you to bite the bait, chase the breadcrumbs into an emotional trap. But instead, you stood still, watched, measured. You didn't swing, you didn't plead, you diagnosed. And that right there, that's what cracked their entire operation. Because when you don't respond the way they need, their illusion collapses. Their whole identity is built on being able to control your reaction. But when you don't flinch, you starve the machine. They don't understand that high awareness is not loud, it's not emotional, it's surgical, it's knowing how to scan the energy behind the words, not just the words themselves. It's hearing the tone shift in a compliment. It's noticing the timing of that apology. It's catching the pattern on repeat. And once you see it, it's done. The game can't continue because you're not confused anymore. You're not questioning your reality. You're documenting theirs. They thought this was chess. They thought they could lure you into arguing, begging, explaining, but you've leveled out of all that. You don't chase clarity from confusion anymore. You let it expose itself. That's what happens when the universe hands you awareness. You stop fighting shadows and start illuminating patterns. And patterns don't lie. Let's answer the question that might be creeping in your head. Did I really do enough by just walking away? Yes. Should I have said something? No. Because silence is a statement when you've already recognized the pattern. They didn't need words. They needed your energy, and you revoked it. And when you stopped feeding the dynamic, their IQ-level scams ran straight into a wall. Your standards. You didn't out-manipulate anyone. You outgrew the entire strategy. That's high-calibration awareness. And it's terrifying to the enemy because you didn't fight dirty. You just fought different. You fought with nothing but inner alignment. And that's how you win, without even showing up to the battlefield. The universe sees it. Stay sharp. Keep watching. Let them trip over their own patterns. You just keep walking forward. Number 4. The surrender file. Fine, you win. They weren't haunted by what you did. They were haunted by what they couldn't undo. Here it is. The collapse. The Ace of Swords moment. The clean cut. Not a scream, not a scene, just that quiet mental snap where pretending doesn't work anymore. They tried to hold the illusion together with duct tape lies, denial loops, and fake smiles. But it's unraveling now. Every night they can't sleep, every awkward moment of zoning out at work, every time they hear your name and their stomach flips. That's the toll. That's the debt their games have racked up. And now the interest is psychological torment. Chosen one, you didn't make them break. Reality did. You didn't threaten them. You didn't chase them. You didn't even clap back. The truth simply matured. And truth has a funny way of aging. The longer it's denied, the louder it echoes. It builds like pressure behind the eyes. And now their own mind is turning on them. That's the moment they mutter, "Fine, you win." But don't get it twisted. That isn't a surrender born from wisdom. It's a white flag soaked in regret. This isn't them becoming a better person. This is them realizing the performance is over. The mask didn't work. The charm didn't hit. The manipulations fell flat. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Your detachment wasn't cold, it was clarity, and they couldn't rewrite that no matter how many lies they stacked. Let's dissect it even deeper. The sleepless nights. That's their mind running infinite reruns of how it all went wrong. The stalled focus. That's the weight of living two lives, the real one and the fake one they tried to push. The guilt. That's the echo of every time they painted you as the villain, while knowing damn well they were the one holding the knife. They didn't lose because you fought harder. They lost because you stood in truth while they twisted themselves in circles trying to escape it. That's why the playbook failed, not because you hacked the game, but because you didn't play it. You sat down and let karma run the scoreboard. And here's what they hate the most. You didn't celebrate their surrender. You didn't even flinch. You just kept walking like it was always supposed to fall apart. And it was, because anything built on manipulation, ego, and fear is already on a timer. You just showed up and hit the expire button with your absence. Here's a truth that burns them. Their emotional reaction is your trophy. That restless energy they're drowning in, that's the proof you were never the problem. It was their refusal to face themselves. And now that you're not available to use as a distraction or scapegoat, the mirror is locked on full blast, and they can't look away. You may ask, will they ever admit the truth out loud? Probably not, but they are admitting it in every way that counts. Their silence, their obsession, their slip-ups, their constant need to check if you're still watching. That's the confession. That's the surrender, not with a speech, with a breakdown. And chosen one, the universe is grinning with you. Because you trusted alignment. You let reality defend you. And now it's delivering the verdict loud and clear. You were the truth all along. Let them stumble. Let them whisper apologies to ghosts. You've already left the courtroom. Their "fine, you win" isn't a victory chant. It's a symptom of truth finally catching up. Number 5. Generosity audit. When kindness exposes poverty. Mindset. They thought they were robbing you. Turns out you were running a character audit the whole time. Every act of generosity you ever gave, every favor, every word of encouragement, every moment you chose empathy over ego, they logged it as a win. In their small, survival-based mind, your kindness was a weakness to be milked. But the universe has a dark sense of humor, doesn't it? Because it turned that same generosity into a spotlight, one that illuminated their spiritual bankruptcy. You weren't giving for applause or validation. You were unconsciously running a diagnostic test, and what surfaced was brutal clarity. They take because they believe there's never enough. You give because you know there always is. Now they're haunted by your old kindness, the way you smiled when they were plotting, the way you showed up when they disappeared, the way you helped when they mocked. They replay those moments like a glitching film reel, realizing too late that you were the rare one, the genuine article in a counterfeit world. What burns them isn't your absence. It's that your authenticity was never for sale. They drained your energy thinking it was endless, not realizing that abundance only multiplies for those who respect it. And here's the thing most won't admit. Generosity isn't about money or gifts. It's about frequency. You were operating at an abundant vibration, gratitude, faith, resilience. They were tuned to scarcity, manipulation, fear, greed. When those two energies collide, one feeds and one depletes. And they've just learned the hard way that you can't siphon energy from someone aligned with the universe. Every time they took without gratitude, the flow reversed. Every time you gave without expectation, the cosmos took note. That's why your life expanded while theirs constricted. Think about it. Chosen one. What do you do when someone keeps taking? You stop giving. But the second you withdraw, they feel a drought. That drought isn't your punishment. It's their karmic reflection. You were their supply of light, clarity, and emotional nourishment. They treated you like an ATM, never realizing you were a sacred power source. Now the machine says, declined. And they're not mad at the machine. They're mad that their manipulative withdrawals got publicly denied. Let's zoom out. Throughout history, this pattern repeats. Nikola Tesla gave the world free ideas. Corporations stole and called him crazy. Robin Williams gave laughter until it broke him. The industry cashed in on his pain. Real givers always end up exposing the takers, because the difference between creation and consumption can't be hidden forever. And you're cut from that same cloth. You didn't lose anything by giving. You simply proved who was running on deficit energy. You're not their villain, you're their audit. Your generosity was the mirror that showed them how spiritually poor they really are. That's why they flinch when they remember your kindness, because it reveals how transactional they've always been. You were generous with time, love, effort, and energy. They were generous with excuses, and the universe, meticulous as ever, is cashing those emotional checks. One side is seeing returns, the other's declaring bankruptcy. So, if you've ever thought, did I give too much? No, you gave exactly what was required for revelation. You didn't overgive, you overexposed. And now, your silence, your detachment, your calm success, that's the invoice being paid in full. Keep walking in your abundance, chosen one. You were never meant to live in their scarcity maze. Let them stay where taking is survival and giving is weakness. You've graduated to a higher frequency, where generosity is power, not loss. The universe saw what you gave without asking. Now it's your turn to receive without needing. Number 6. Declined, cutting off their ATM to your peace. They weren't addicted to you, they were addicted to what you let them get away with. Now that it's gone, withdrawal symptoms hit different. There comes a moment, chosen one, where the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all, except for one word that hits harder than 1,000 explanations. Declined. Not because you're bitter, not because you're trying to get revenge, but because peace is a currency, and you finally realized your energy was being looted like a 24/7 ATM by someone who never intended to deposit anything back. They weren't loving you, they were using you for emotional regulation, validation, attention, control. Every time they stirred the pot, they got a reaction. Every time they withdrew your time, your empathy, your sanity, they smiled while you bled. You became their favorite transaction, and they thought the machine would never shut down. But now, card declined, access revoked, and baby, they're losing it, because it's not just the silence that stings, it's what it represents, that the door they thought they could walk through forever just slammed shut, that you finally set the boundary they never believed you had the nerve to enforce. And this time, it's not a test, it's not a game, it's not a bluff. It's the final receipt printed in bold. This line is no longer in service. Watch how fast their energy shifts. The charm turns to rage. The fake apologies flip into insults. The love bombing becomes slander. Because when someone entitled to your peace gets cut off, it doesn't reveal their sadness. It reveals their intentions. They weren't there for you. They were there for what you gave. And now that the giving has stopped, the tantrum begins. That's how you know it was never love. It was a service they thought they subscribed to. But the universe, oh, the universe loves this kind of discipline, because every time you say no to chaos, you say yes to alignment. You're no longer emotionally bankrupt. Your attention is no longer up for auction. You're not explaining why the vault is closed. You're just locking it and walking away. That is power. That is peace. That is chosen one frequency. Let them scream. Let them spiral. Let them call you cold, because their opinion doesn't pay rent in your mind anymore. And the lesson is final. Access isn't a loophole. It's a privilege, one they lost the second they mistook your kindness for weakness. You weren't cruel. You were done. And now, the only thing they're withdrawing is silence. Balance, zero. Power, restored. Number 7. 10 swords, 0. Comebacks, the broadcast gets cut. They didn't expect you to walk away. They expected you to stay tuned. But you cancelled the show mid-season, and now they're stuck in a rerun of their own delusions. This is the end of the episode. Not with a cliffhanger, not with a dramatic final scene, but with the screen going black. Just static. Silence. The broadcast has been cut, and their whole identity is glitching, because the one thing they built their personality around, controlling you, just flatlined. No more panic button, no more emotional hotline, no more you. See, chosen one, what they wanted wasn't connection. It was programming. You were cast in their show as the predictable responder, the emotional reactor, the fixer, the validator. They built entire plot lines around pushing your buttons and watching the fallout. But then you went off script. You stopped replying. You stopped defending. You stopped explaining the obvious to someone committed to misunderstanding you. And that silence, that was the final sword. No retaliation, no closure, just gone. That's psychological checkmate. Understand this. Some people aren't addicted to attention, they're addicted to control. And once they can't hijack your nervous system anymore, they spiral. They depended on your reactivity to stay relevant. You were their co-star, their emotional GPS, their last shot at pretending they had meaning. And now, their drama plays to an empty room. You're not even watching the fall anymore. You're somewhere else, evolving, unbothered, unavailable. And you might be asking yourself, should I have said more? Left things clearer? Made a stronger exit? No. You leaving quietly was the loudest message of all, because people like that don't understand logic. They understand withdrawal. They only hear the message when the supply runs dry. Your silence is the shutdown. Your absence is the error message. 10 swords, that's what it took for you to be done. Not because you're weak, but because you finally saw the pattern. Nothing changes when you keep reviving the same episode. So you flipped the switch, turned off the channel, and threw away the remote. That's not giving up. That's called liberation. The universe applauded that move, because every chosen one has to reach that point where they realize peace doesn't beg to be understood. It simply disconnects, and when you disconnected, their whole system crashed. Let it. That wasn't a relationship. That was a performance. And you just ended the show. Broadcast terminated. Drama cancelled. You upgraded. Number 8. Neutral, not nice. Strategic detachment that bites. They wanted chaos. You gave them nothing. That's not cold. That's control. Let's make one thing clear. You didn't turn cold. You turned calibrated. You're not heartless. You're strategic. And your neutrality, that's not weakness. That's warfare, because nothing terrifies someone addicted to control more than a target that won't flinch. You stopped being nice and started being neutral, and that hit harder than any revenge plan they could have prepared for. They were expecting another round, another argument, another guilt trip they could loop you into, another sob story with hooks laced in it. But instead, you gave them the cleanest move in the game: detachment. No counterpoints, no clarifying texts, no "let me just say one last thing." Just nothing. You went protocol. And now they're starving for a reaction that will never come. Here's what they never saw coming. When you detach, you stop feeding the glitch in their identity. You stop being their emotional generator. You were the battery pack, keeping their instability charged. Every time you engaged, you were supplying them with signal. Now, they're shouting into static, talking to walls, throwing bait into an ocean that doesn't even ripple back. And you might be wondering, was I too cold? No, you were precise, because detachment is the most surgical move a chosen one can make when the enemy is messy. You're not the villain in their story, but you're also done playing the savior in a script that's rigged. Detachment is the refusal to let their chaos decide your character. Think about it like this. Surgeons don't panic. They don't scream in the operating room. They work clean, calm, calculated. That's you now. You're not avoiding emotions. You're refusing to bleed for people who cut you on purpose. That's not bitterness. That's intelligence. That's what happens when you upgrade your emotional firewall. The universe moves like this, because when you stay in your lane, emotionally grounded and unbothered, you're giving the message that this energy is protected. You're no longer open for random access. You've gone from easy entry to restricted protocol, and now every manipulator that tries to tap in finds the line is disconnected. You're not angry. You're not loud. You're done. That's not cruelty. That's high-level boundary work, and it's driving them insane. You're not nice anymore. You're neutral, and that neutrality, it bites. Number 9, the new weapon: action over echoes. They used to live off your reactions. Now they're choking on your results. You don't argue anymore. You move. No speeches, no emotional dissertations, no dramatic warnings. Just action, clean, clear, and surgical. And that shift? It hit like a blunt object to the gut. The people who once pressed your buttons like it was a game now can't even find the panel. You changed the layout. You rewired the system. You became the firewall. This is what Chosen One evolution looks like. You stopped echoing their chaos and started responding with precision. You became decisive, efficient, deadly in your silence, terrifying in your momentum. You're not here to explain boundaries, you're here to enforce them. And when you started doing that, the whole energy field changed. Before, they could bait you into debates, emotional trapdoors, circular arguments, fake apologies followed by fresh disrespect. They were used to the version of you that gave too many chances, too much benefit of the doubt, too many "maybe they'll change" excuses. But that version died. What rose from the ashes is surgical calm and scorched earth follow-through. And now, you don't warn people. You remove them, swiftly, silently, permanently. That's the bat in your hand. Not rage, not drama, decisive action. You pick your shot and you swing clean. No wasted motion, no regret. Just, I said what I said. Energy, followed by silence they can't decode. They used to feel powerful because they could predict you. They knew how to trigger you, knew how to wind you up and sit back while you unraveled. But now, their hands keep hitting blank space. Their words don't land. Their games don't start. You didn't just stop reacting. You outgrew the interface. They don't have access to your emotional operating system anymore. And now they're panicking. because every manipulator needs a reaction to survive. But you've starved the chaos. You might be thinking, was it too much? Did I go too far? No, you didn't explode. You executed, and the universe is backing you harder than ever because your decisions are now aligned with power, not pain. This is the new era. No more warning shots, just results. You are the action now, and they're still echoing in a room you no longer stand in. Number 10. Breakthrough logistics. When alignment delivers. They kept casting spells with crossed fingers. You just updated your GPS, and the universe showed up right on time. Let's kill the suspense. Your breakthrough wasn't luck, wasn't magic, wasn't just your time. It was logistics. The universe doesn't bless chaos. It delivers to precision. And guess what, chosen one? You aligned your internal address with your external actions, and boom, delivery confirmed. That's why it's all clicking for you now. Not because you begged, pleaded, or threw tantrums to be seen. You said what you were gonna do, and you did it. Again and again, without applause, without eyes on you, without needing a motivational playlist every morning. While they were busy staging the illusion of progress, you were building the real thing, brick by boring, disciplined brick. And that's what's burning them alive right now, because they don't understand why things keep working for you. They keep asking, why them? And the answer's simple. You kept showing up. You weren't chasing outcomes. You were matching them. Your words, habits, mindset, energy, all lined up like a locked-in delivery route. The system recognized you because you finally stopped pretending. You became the address the blessing could reach. Meanwhile, their packages keep bouncing back. You know why? Because their mouths say one thing, but their actions scream another. They preach loyalty, but move shady. They want love, but operate on fear. They claim they're ready, but their vibration is sending out the wrong coordinates. That's not failure. That's misalignment. The universe isn't denying them. It's just confused where to send the upgrade. Too many red flags on the order form. You didn't rely on tarot twists, destiny signs, or angel numbers to carry you through. You used consistency. You used discipline. You became the proof. And now the universe trusts you with the very things others are still manifesting on shaky foundations. You became trustworthy to the plan. You earned your tracking number. And here's the truth no one wants to admit. Breakthroughs don't chase people who aren't ready. They knock exactly where they know someone will answer. And you, chosen one, answered with aligned behavior, not big promises. That's what makes you unstoppable. Your abundance wasn't random. It was delivered, right on time, right to the right one. Number 11. Peace that doesn't flinch. 2 weeks, 10 cups. They came back looking for the version of you that flinched, but all they found was a locked door and a light that's shining somewhere they can't reach. Here's what they didn't plan for, chosen one, that you'd find peace and know how to protect it. That you'd taste emotional fulfillment and realize you don't owe access to anyone who helped destroy your appetite. Now that you're grounded, calm and radiant without their chaos, they're poking the perimeter like it's still 2022. But this time, there's no opening, no entry, no echo. You're not just stable, you're sealed, and your energy says it before your mouth ever has to. Exes are lurking, co-workers are side-eyeing, old relatives are just checking in, all testing the gate like they can still trigger you. But what they're running into now is a frequency so still, so centered, that it reflects their drama back like a mirror. No flinch, no bite, no reaction, just presence. The kind that makes manipulators squirm. Because peace is loud in its own way. It hums, it glows, and it doesn't get pulled into every petty tug-of-war someone tries to initiate. That's what stuns them. They're used to the old you, the one who over-explained, over-gave, over-forgave. But now they show up fishing for softness, only to realize you've evolved into structure. Not cold, not cruel, just closed. And not from fear, but from healed logic. And you might be thinking, will they ever get it? Will they ever stop trying to re-enter? Maybe, but that's not your job. Your job is to hold the line, to remember what it took to get here. This peace wasn't handed to you. It was earned through nights of silence, days of discipline, and a hell of a lot of self-respect. So let them talk. Let them guess. Let them whisper, "Oh, look at them," from the outside. Because the lights are on. Just not for them. And if they ever knew the version of you that flinched, that version's gone. The new you doesn't bend for old games. You're not petty. You're protected. And that 10-cup forecast? It's yours. Emotionally rich. Unshaken. Untouchable. And anyone fishing for the old you better bring a map, because that version has been permanently moved and no one forwarded the address. Number 12. Aftermath. Their narrative collapses, yours compounds. They needed your chaos to keep their story alive, but you left, and now their script is blank. This is the part no one warns them about, the silence after the chosen one leaves. The story they built around your reactions, dead. The narrative they spun about you being the problem, evaporated. Because the moment you stopped responding, the plot stopped making sense. No more debates, no more defending, no more free attention to feed their fiction. You unplugged. And without your energy to fuel it, their entire storyline collapsed like a set made of cardboard. They didn't realize they were the antagonist in their own show until the star walked off set. Now they're stuck trying to direct a film with no audience, no cast, no momentum. Their smear campaign falling apart. Their sob stories getting stale. The version of events they sold so confidently, exposed by time and your complete indifference. Meanwhile, your life, it's compounding, quietly, brilliantly, your circles tighter, your peace is louder, your energy is cleaner. You're not flaunting it. You don't have to. You're building, and that's the part that stings the most. You didn't even need revenge to win. You just stopped participating and leveled up. See, Chosen One, you didn't get stronger by fighting them. You got stronger by focusing on you. That's why everything's aligning now. New opportunities, sharper focus, more internal space. You're becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You didn't win against them. You won away from them. And the enemy, they see it, they feel it, but they'll never say it, because to admit you were never the villain would require them to face the one thing they've been running from, truth. And truth is the one opponent their ego was never built to survive. Let them spiral. Let them rewrite their scripts over and over again. You're too far gone to hear it, and too focused to care. Your life speaks now. No revenge tour, no victory lap, just ascension. And that is the most devastating flex of all. And now, Chosen One, the verdict is simple. Keep building, stay silent, and never look back. No mercy for chaos, no applause for doing what's necessary. You've outgrown their games, their guilt traps, their emotional debt. From here on, you lead with results, not noise. Keep your energy armored and your plans sacred. The universe already co-signed your power. Now you co-sign your discipline. If this message slapped the truth into place, drop 77 in the comments, hit that like, smash subscribe, and share this with another soul who's done playing small. Let's spread the light, one silent flex at a time.